so we're going to flood you with a number of resources this morning. So next up, we know that one of the biggest challenges for businesses is navigating the regulatory environment and the various programs that government has to offer. So we're pleased to bring you some experts in their field to give you an overview of some of the programs they manage and take any questions you might have. So I'm going to call all three of them up at the same time. We'll have them sit at our panel table, and I know we have a couple of presentations. So we'll start off with Clayton Willoughby. He's workforce consultant for Jobs, Economy and Trade. And again, a huge thank you to Clayton for helping us make this all come together. And Clayton just arrived back from vacation in the wee hours of the morning, so we're pleased that he was able to come here today. Marie Oxley is with the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership with Agriculture and Irrigation. Welcome, Marie. And our third presenter, I was back and forth with Dan on Friday night. I know he was working through the weekend on his presentation, but Daniel Graham is with Product Knowledge and Pricing with Agriculture Financial Services Corporation. So Dan, since you're last one on the stage, maybe we'll start with your presentation. So let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Good morning. On behalf of the AFSC, I'd like to thank the Chamber for inviting us to come and share a little bit of information on our risk management products that we offer at AFSC. We know there's been a number of challenges throughout the last year, or few years actually, that are happening. Declining commodity prices, increasing input costs. Now we have concerns in regards to production that's looming over our head for the 2024 year. And with that in mind, I just am going to address some of the issues that are going to be facing us this year. Or hopefully it won't be as big of an issue, but I also want to talk about some of the changes and some of the other products that we have. The first thing I want to talk about is agri-stability. Agri-invest. No. Agri-insurance. There are two changes for the 2024 year that you should be aware of. One is with the New Crop Insurance Initiative, known as NCII. We're putting a restriction on the number of acres that can be insured under this program. It has to, the acres have to be the same as the proxy production insurance subscription that it's linked to. So those who are familiar with the New Crop Insurance Initiative, it allows producers to explore some unique and diverse crops that may not be insured normally under production insurance, in the hopes that we can gather some yield data and hopefully graduate that product into our normal production insurance, but in the meantime it allows some coverage. But it's not intended to be the primary coverage from farms. It's just intended to be an add-on to a production insurance program that we already have. Other jurisdictions like Saskatchewan also restrict it, where we're just restricting it to the same number of acres to that production insurance. Saskatchewan, I think, limits it to only 30%. The second change for the 2024 year is we're adding the peril of wildfires. Last year, wildfires was huge. We had a real dry spring, lots of issues. Fortunately, not very many producers were impacted by the wildfires that you saw. But we found some gaps when we were looking at our products, that potential wildfire damage was not going to be covered under our production insurance products. We fixed that for this year, so wildfires is now an insurable peril. Now I'm going to talk about the big issue here, and because of the conditions that we have with the low snow cover and the low snowpacks in the mountains, how's agri-insurance going to respond to this in the event that there's restrictions on irrigated land for water allocations? You might be surprised to note that drought is not covered for irrigated covered land. It's part of the contract of insurance. However, we have a water allocation restriction benefit. If you're interested, it's under the Canada-Alberta agri-insurance benefits package available on our website, afsc.ca, if you're interested to look that up. But the water allocation benefit is allows for coverage for irrigated crops to continue in the event water allocations are restricted during the crop year. But they are subject to conditions, and these conditions I want to share with you. The first condition, water allocations need to be restricted by a regulatory body. Government of Alberta, Government of Canada. We even include irrigation districts as the regulatory body that would be considered for restricting coverage. Second, at least 50% of that restricted water allocation that is given to you needs to be applied to that insured crop. Now, we understand that you may need to allocate water to alternate crops, but we still need a minimum of 50% of that water allocation to that insured crop. Anything in excess of that can be reallocated to your other insured irrigated crops. You can transfer it to other crops if you need to, as long as it's within your policy. If you intend not to allocate that 50% to that insured crop, you need to report it on your land report as dry land coverage. It will be considered dry land if you don't meet that 50% requirement. And finally, you need to report on your harvest production report in the fall the acres or the fields in which restrictions were provided. Now, this is all in that benefit document I talked about earlier. It's available on our website, and I have a copy here if anyone actually wants to look at the details. So those are the conditions associated with water allocation benefit, and I'm sure I'm going to have more questions. Now, I want to talk about agri-stability a little bit. I talked about some of the things that we already, challenges that we've been facing with decreasing commodity prices, the increasing input costs, and concerns with production. Agri-stability is a whole farm margin-based program, and these particular items that we've been talking have impact on margin, as you would know. Statistics Canada is expecting 2024 to be a very difficult year on margins for producers. And I would encourage producers to consider agri-stability. Under the SCAP agreement, there's been some changes. Prior to the SCAP agreement, the removal of the reference margin limiting factor had been removed, and benefits are now up to 80 cents on the dollar after you start triggering. It starts triggering when you hit 70% of your historical reference margin, and the contribution fees, it's fairly reasonable at $315 per $100,000 or 0.315% plus a $55 flat administration cost. I know a lot of people have opted out of the program over the years, but this is probably a year to consider it, considering the risks that are involved. If you want more information, I'd be happy to talk to you about it on the side, or contact your local AFSC office. The deadline to enroll is April 30th. Now, speaking of agri-stability, I want to talk about a little bit of a pilot that we're doing this year. Minister of Agriculture has been very supportive in us finding ways to make the programs more responsive. We did some work and found some potential changes that could improve the responsiveness, particularly for the cow-calf industry. We would like to be able to try to capture full winter feed and pasture costs, and removing the feed inventory price swings that are affecting claims within the program themselves. The study is this year. We need cow-calf producers with diverse styles of practice. The goal is to determine the best way to capture full feed and pasture input costs regarding what production system is being used. And we don't need to participate in agri-stability to participate in the pilot. We just need accurate financial and inventory information on this. If you're interested in participating in this, you can contact our senior policy analyst, Stuart Chatter, and the email is on there. And if you want, just call our office local office, they'll get a hold of them. This is an important pilot. The data and the information we get on this is going to help us support our arguments and convince our colleagues in other jurisdictions to possibly make changes to the amendments to the agri-stability program, if not within the current framework, definitely for the next framework. I want to talk about some important dates. Tomorrow is the deadline for ag recovery for the Canada-Alberta Drought Livestock Assistance Program initiative. There was about $160 million committed to the ag recovery this last year. This is the deadline for that. So if you haven't gotten it in, please, it's there. It's still available until tomorrow night. The second is February 29th, deadline to enroll in agri-insurance and perennial crops, for perennial crops. Now, I want to plug shamelessly our moisture deficiency insurance program. That is our pasture program. There's been some changes over the last few years. Last year, we paid out $326 million out of that program. To give you in context, the agri-recovery program was $160 million. So it's responsive and it is paying. Now, I'm also going to suggest that because it's responsive and paying, the argument for another agri-recovery is going to be difficult. Agri-recovery is usually intended, the framework is intended for one-off events that don't happen. We've had 2 agri-recoveries associated with feed in 3 years. In addition, they take into consideration what existing programs are put into place for an agri-recovery, and they look at how it responds. Now we have data on how this program responds. It may be more difficult for an agri-recovery response. So I would encourage you to consider MDI, moisture deficiency insurance, if you're looking for some pasture coverage for feed, to cover some of the feed risk that you have. And that deadline is February 29th. March 8th, I put in there just in case you want to volunteer for that agri-stability pilot I talked about. We have until March 8th to gather that. So if you're interested, please reach out to us as soon as possible. April 30th, of course, is our deadline for the agri-insurance for annual products. So if you want to enroll or make elections for that, that's April 30th, along with enrolling into agri-stability. June 13th will be the last day to purchase livestock insurance for calf policies. Feeder and fed are available throughout the year, but calf policies are cut off on June 13th this year. The prices, premiums look pretty high, but the price generally is about 3.5% of coverage being offered for the high dollar coverage that we have within livestock price insurance. At record highs, I get a little nervous of retracement. I think of 2015 and after, and I think of 2020 as well, which has been years that we've seen some significant price changes that have triggered some payments. And finally, December 31st is the deadline for agri-stability fees with penalty to remain eligible for 2024 benefits. So December 31st, you can still get your supplemental, pay the fees to still be eligible for 2024. And on that, I know there's going to be a lot of questions, I'm sure, for clarity at some point, but I'll wait. Thanks.
We'll go through the presentations. We'll go through our presenters first, because I know with the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Program, there's a ton of information in a very little bit of time. So I'll invite Marie over.
Hi, my name is Marie Oxley from Alberta Agriculture and Irrigation, speaking for the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership. Many fundamentals from the previous program CAP were maintained for Sustainable CAP. Sustainable CAP runs from 2023 to March 2028, and it maintained focus on environment and climate change, but added with a link to business risk management, participation of underrepresented individuals and groups, and performance measuring and results. There's a brand new program in Sustainable CAP as well, called the Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program, otherwise known as RELP. Funding did increase by 25%, of which some was allocated to the new route program as well. Nope. Okay, so this slideshow shows a big picture of sustainable CAP. There are three big areas: business growth management, shared strategic initiatives, and federal-only strategic initiatives. In Alberta, $508 million is invested over the 5 years. And today I'm only going to focus on this middle branch, which is the cost-shared strategic initiatives available to Alberta. So within this middle branch, there are 5 more branches: building sector capacity, growth and competitiveness, climate change and environment, science, research and innovation, market development and trade, resiliency and public trust. I want to note, under the climate change and environment, the efficient grain handling and farm technology program are currently closed. They are reviewing their programs as there was a fall engagement session, and they are reviewing the results from that engagement session, and as soon as updates are available to those programs, information will be posted online. So I strongly advise you to visit our website for updates towards those programs in the near future. So first we start with building sector capacity and growth competitiveness, was already previously mentioned by MLA Hunter. On-farm value added is available to producers, adding value past primary production and approved Indigenous applicants. There's a 25 cost share for capital expenses and 75 for non-capital expenses. There's a maximum funding of $250,000 per fiscal year, and the funding categories include processing capacity expansion, food safety improvement, new product and process development, market development, and access. This program is separated into 2 funding streams. Stream A is for under $50,000. It is eligibility based and no sales requirement is required. Stream B is for funding over $50,000. There is a, one sec, my notes disappeared. It is merit-based, and you need to have a minimum $100,000 in global annual sales in order to be eligible for that over $50,000. And then there is the value-added program. It is very similar to the previous program I just discussed. However, now the value-added processors and bioindustrial processors are available. The capital expenses and non-capital expenses are available at the same cost share, as well as the maximum funding per fiscal year, and same as the funding categories. Again, Stream A is for under $50,000, no sales requirement. Over $50,000, there is that $100,000 minimum sales requirement in global sales. And the third one, under building sector capacity, growth, and competitiveness, this is to support projects focused on innovation that result in significant company growth in the sector. This is available to agriculture and bioindustrial processors and industry organizations. Eligible products must include one or the following activities: equipment and engineering related to new processing facilities and significant expansion projects that increase processing capacity in Alberta, exploration of market opportunities and directly address barriers to export and new market access, activities that promote collaboration amongst companies to grow the sector, and any other activities deemed by the minister to be eligible. Projects that are eligible are, sorry, my notes disappeared. I don't know how to control this. A letter is requested for you to submit. So go online, and I don't know what might happen to my notes. Sorry, guys. This is the new program, Resilient Agricultural Landscape. This is just moving, so then it's, I don't want that. I want the, that's what I want, if it stays. Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is the new program under Climate Change and Environment, Resilient Agricultural Landscape Program, and it is brand new to Sustainable CAP. It supports producers conserve and enhance the resiliency of agricultural landscapes by accelerating the adoption of on-farm land use and management practices that maximize provision of multiple ecological goods and services. This is not a cost-shared program. Eligible applicants are primary producers, grazing reserve associations, operators of community pastures, and approved Indigenous applicants. The maximum funding does depend on what type of applicant you are. It is a maximum $150,000 for primary producers, $300,000 for the remaining. Funding categories include pasture management, cropland conversion, tree establishment, and wetlands. And then the second one I'm talking about, the climate change and environment, is the water program. It is broken up into two streams, in both streams, primary producers and approved Indigenous applicants are eligible. First is the on-farm irrigation stream. To upgrade existing irrigation, expansion is not included in this program. A maximum grant of $30,000 per applicant per fiscal year is eligible under the irrigation stream. That is broken down further to the type of upgrade you are doing. For full system upgrades, you are eligible for 25% up to maximum $15,000. That would be the purchase of a low center pressure pivot or subsurface drip irrigation. Other equipment upgrades are eligible at 25% up to maximum $5,000. That would be for equipment upgrades that are for high efficiencies, such as upgrading your nozzles and pumps, as well as surface drip irrigation. And then the next stream is the on-farm water stream, and that is a maximum of $35,000 per applicant for the duration of Sustainable CAP, and cost shares do vary depending on the project type. This program funds new well constructions and reconstruction of existing wells, new construction or expansion of existing dugouts, spring developments, unshared pipelines, well decommissioning, and well pit conversions. Science, research, and innovation is the next branch. Accelerating Agricultural Innovation Program is administered through RDR. That's research-driven agricultural research. There's a long list of applicants, but is to support research activities and projects. Funding is for non-capital expenses, cost shared, or principal investigators, PSIs, and nonprofits for 80% of the grant, and the applicant for 20% cost shared. And then capital expenses are cost shared at 25% of the grant and 75% of the applicant. And there is a maximum of $1.5 million per fiscal year. And then the final program in the suite of Alberta CAP is the Resiliency and Public Trust, and it is to support stakeholders to gain and grow resiliency and public trust for Alberta agricultures in the agri-food sector. Eligible applicants are industry organizations, agri-processors, fee-for-service providers, post-secondary institutions, not-for-profit organizations, municipalities, school authorities, and Indigenous communities. And then there's a capital expenses are covered at 25%, and the applicant has to cover the remaining 75%, while non-capital expenses are covered at 60% for the applicant to cover the remaining 40%. Maximum funding is $500,000 per fiscal year for the duration of the program. Thank you. I would very much advise everybody, if you are interested in any programs, to please visit our website. Because of this fall engagement that we had, updates to the program are always able to go online. And so if you visit our website, you'll always get the most updated information. Thanks.
And last but certainly not least, Clayton Willoughby.
I don't have a fancy presentation, but I do want to say how thrilled and that the Ministry of Jobs, Economy and Trade is to be able to partner on workforce development activities such as this, as well as the Building Agriculture Workforce Capacity, or BAWC, which I thought was a great acronym. There are a number of activity or grants available, as well as resources for workforce development. There's too much for people to know, and you don't know what you don't know. What my job is to connect you as employers to those resources. MLA Hunter spoke about the training being to get reimbursed for training costs. That's called the Canada-Alberta Job Grant, and that's one of the bigger ones that we advertise to people. You as an employer are able to initiate training for your employees or a new employee to get a minimum of 2/3 of that training cost reimbursed to you. There are criteria as an employer, size of the business, to determine who can and can't be who can't get reimbursed for such a training. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about some of the local resources. Medicine Hat College, the Work Integrated Learning Program, is also an excellent tool to get educated on. So reach out to the college to get more information on that. This one is closed, but it's called the Canada Summer Job Grant. It's a federal program, and it closed back in January, but it provides a wage subsidy for employees for the summer of half of minimum wage, so $7.50 an hour, and it is for youth, and youth defined in this grant is 15 to 29, so it's quite a range. Another program is connected with EI, and it is the WorkShare program. So if due to the seasonalness of a lot of the work here, instead of laying off your employees in the slow season, if there is some work for them to do, you can make an agreement with the federal government and the employee, and pay a small portion of the they'll still be working for you for a percentage of what they normally would. You would pay just a percentage of that, and then EI would top up to a certain amount. And that's a good way to retain that skilled labor that is on your payroll versus potentially losing them and not being able to get them back the following year. So that's the WorkShare program. My situation is tough because it works a lot better sitting down one-on-one and talking with you to get to know what your needs are, and talk through those problems. I am located here in Medicine Hat, and I cover up to Brooks and over to Grassy. So if you're wanting to talk to me to find out what the government of Alberta can do to help you, or what resources are out there, I can connect you to those resources. So please reach out to me. I'll make sure that information is passed along. I do send out distribution emails with updated resource information. We have webinars monthly on different topics. They may interest you, they may not. But they're about an hour to two once a month, where we can teach you about some workforce development resources. So my information will be available after, and you can be added to my distribution list, as well as have me come out, show me your operation, talk to me about your needs. Let me at least connect you to some experts that might be able to help. So I'll leave that with you, and if you have any questions, please find me after.